This is for the leaders, the visionaries, the hope bringers, kindness instigators. This is your place to get loved, poured into, activated, and inspired. Well, good morning. Welcome to Fireside Friday, April 24th. It's so good to be with you here in this space. And this is truly going to be a gift to us both because I really don't know what's going to come through. I have a few things that I've been led through this morning, and one of the first pieces is just really just grounding into the space as you listen, whether you're here with me in the Zoom room or whether you're listening in. And I feel like we've been doing this pretty regularly if you've been listening or following along for firesides. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. But a lot of life right now, it feels there's a lot going on in the world, in our own lives, and then the expanded world. And I think for us, as people who want to continue bringing forward our gifts and being light and love and healing, that also means that we get to sit and be in that goodness with ourselves too. And that means slowing some things down. So, here in this moment, as you listen, if you can, if you could close your eyes with me and just take some deep, gentle breaths, whatever pace feels good to you, in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I'm going to ground in here with you too. The very first thing, I'm going to keep my eyes closed too. Feel free to keep your eyes closed if that feels nice, or you can open them whenever you're ready. Um, but I feel like I need a little less stimulus or even seeing myself. So, when I was really starting to tap in this morning, I one of the first songs that came on for me, sometimes I play a game almost like a Russian roulette with my Spotify, and ask for messages to come through to me. Through the lyrics, it could also be tone, but it's almost like just being out in the world and seeing what finds us. That's another thing that's kind of shifted for me over the last several years is that I was always, probably always instinctually meeting my life in a lot of ways. But now I'm doing it a lot more intentionally and also recognizing where life is always meeting me. Um, and I feel like this. So the message that first came through was through a song by Trevor Hall, I believe is his name. It's called Find Your Center. And so I really felt like, again, I was feeling like we needed to ground. I feel like I was being reminded, yes, that's a good call. That's how we start. That's how we prime. But one of the lines, my love is just a reminder. Find your center. Find your center. Your love is just a reminder. It's always at your center. It's always at the core of who you are. You can never be separated from that. You might feel a little distant from it. Often, too, that's usually because we've been taking on so much. And usually we get bogged down in our to-dos, our things that are going on in our brain, especially as women. We carry a lot of the mental load in our homes, and in our communities. And so right now, I feel like the invitation as you listen is to try to take that mental load and just drop it just a little bit. It never quite goes away. I know it's always there for us. But something that continued to come through today was just also just the presence, being a present moment with you and really being able to receive what's meant for us also means being available to receive around us, to be slow enough also to notice things that are coming into our awareness and treating those things as teachers. It could be colors, it could be creatures, it could be songs. These things that are always trying to meet us and are doing life with us. I feel like that's another thing that's been coming through too, is that we are always supported. So when we start seeing synchronicity or we start having people say something this week, it was the color purple that kept coming up for me one evening this week. And even a woman selected like a card I had made. She was drawn to the purple. And earlier that day, I had found this purple ticket in my pocket. I gave her the ticket. I was like, I don't know if this will mean something to you. She took it. I don't know if it found a home in her or if it will go to someone else or if it will go into the trash or to the recycling. But that's not really, I feel like what I used to do a lot in my work of trying to love people well was to almost try to orchestrate or strategize or think through what will meet and take them somewhere long term, more for the vision that I had in mind. Um, and I've dropped a lot of the need to know and the need to plan for someone or the need to know for someone. Instead, just being a participant in the moment with them and seeing what comes through in my spirit and what is coming through in theirs, and allowing and trusting that they're on their journey, that is not mine to control. Something similarly here, we had a bit of a blowout in my home this morning. We've got a teenager amongst us here in our roommate situation. Um, just kidding. It's Serge's kiddo. He's 15 going on 45 because he knows everything. But we're having a lot of issues right now with lying. And so that also for me is a really hard thing. Integrity, loss of integrity or loss of that relationship. And thinking through how we want to navigate that. That's really challenging too, because again, when you're trying to think about someone's long-term future, how do we make decisions right now that help them know where the boundaries are, but also where they can still be allowed to make some of their mistakes? It's a balancing act. And it's one of those things too that this is also part of how we make decisions each and every day in our own life. But as healers, I often feel like, and this is been my experience, it may not have been yours, but as people who came here to bring healing, a lot of times we end up putting ourselves last. And especially as women, that has been a regularly recurring message for a long time. And I feel like we are at a pivot and a deeper understanding. And of course, it's been the concept of many Fireside Fridays of how important it is for us to really stoke our own flames, to really make ourselves also the subject and the participant of our own devotion and attention. Those things are coming through for me very strongly today, too. The word devotion, there was another one. Deliberate practice, our deliberate practice. The other thing, too, I think that has happened for me as a person who has been coming through a spiritual journey, deconstructing parts of one system, and then, well, not even just one system, but things that I inherited, is recognizing that what has happened for me in that process, although it wasn't fun to begin, and there have been parts that have been deeply unsettling, is that each and every part of that has also led me to a more deliberate life. Every time that we are encountering that rupture or that break, or even now, this loss of trust, I feel like it's also an invitation for us to revisit. It's a invitation for us to decide what we are going to deliberately practice, what we're going to infuse our lives with, how we're going to set ourselves up, and what that means for us, like moving forward. And I think sometimes too, those pivots in our life, those fractures we didn't plan, they can be really beautiful invitations into something else. They still get to be really hard. That's okay too, allowing the hard. And but also using them, I think also what is the invitation inside of this? What is the thing that I am maybe most afraid might happen because of this? Or my greatest fear has come to fruition. Now what? What does that look like? And even now, what I'm hearing and sensing is like there is so much training in us right now in modernity, in the modern world, to push, 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 to accelerate, to be productive. And I still feel like there is still this message for us to slow down, to really, really be present with our breath, with what is, even if what is uncomfortable. That keeps coming through too, that there might be several of you going through big transitions, whether it is coming from an old identity into a new one that you're ready to embody, or whether it is a new season of stepping into that embodiment because you have been in those places of breakdown. And now you're feeling like, all right, I'm passing through a different kind of threshold. Something that's really been coming up for me a lot is also how cool it is to watch nature in cycle, right? We have the seasons, things go into ground, they die away, and then they come back and they're reborn. And each and every time we're going through these transitions, that death part is when I feel like our society also kind of goes, I don't like that. I want to be in the birth. I want to be in the vibrant part of it. I want to be in the blooming. I want to know what my garden's going to look like because I planted the seeds and it's there. But I still feel like there is this message right now of really visiting and thinking about what are we deliberately practicing? What are we giving our attention and focus to? What are we giving our devotion to? Because those things are things that we're placing. It's almost like our life is a living altar. What are we placing on that altar each and every day? What are we allowing to sit with us and be with us? And are there things that we want or need more time with? And or are there things that we want to remove, or to place in? I feel like there is a mixture of things happening, but that also thinking about your life as this altar piece, this sacred thing, and that you get to divinely decide what is there. We do that each and every day with how we spend our time in our life, the life that we live inside of each and every day. We're showing our devotion and our priority. And so again, I feel like there's a little bit of an invitation to really reflect on what am I devoting my life to? What does my altar look like this week? And sometimes too, it looks haphazard. It looks like somebody knocked the thing over. That's okay too. That message was coming through for me earlier this week as well. I'm remembering as I'm bringing it forward. Is the other thing too is also this reminder that no matter what season you're inside of, no matter how things look, that each and every part of them we can find beauty inside of if we'll choose to have the eyes to see it. And what I was thinking about too is often I listen to people, myself included, talk about or criticize themselves for things that are hard or they don't like or they're ready to be finished with, or I wish I would do this thing. And what I have found is most of that judgment, most of that criticism is not actually from a place that grows us. It actually keeps us stuck. Judgment actually stops us in a cycle. If I think about this too, if we have you know, if somebody's like, I want to show you this clip of something that I love, and you're like, that's stupid. Well, that person doesn't feel like they want to keep sharing. They don't want to expand further. So if we treat parts of that in our life the same way with that judgment, why would we feel the freedom to explore? And or sometimes what happens, we're really good at shaming ourselves through that judgment, right? Shame, I am something wrong, whereas guilt is I did something wrong, and shame is that identity thing. And when we shame ourselves through judgment, we also lock ourselves in um, that identity, that thing we say we don't want. Whereas if we will meet those parts of ourselves with more curiosity and friendship, again, I was talking about earlier, having that desired outcome for someone, that vision for something. And most of the time, those things we have inherited if we have not consciously created. I'm going to say that again. Most of those things we have inherited if we have not consciously created, deliberately chosen for ourselves. Um, and so a lot of that programming and conditioning is still running in the background, whether it's through, for me, a lot of religion, a lot of familial obligation or pacts, like internally in my spirit that I also didn't even recognize that I was making. And as I share these things too, it's really important for me that I also reiterate that if you're feeling a lot come up as you listen to this, like, oh, I have so many things, that again is kind of a judgment. And what I mean by that is that we have a lot of you here in this space are high achievers. You are the person who did the project, who ran the thing, who runs the thing. And so we want to be the best. We want to conquer the thing. And I feel like, again, this reminder of this isn't about conquering a list. It's not about conquering yourself or mastering or taking that hill or knocking it out of the park. It's instead more about a deliberate choice to be in relationship with ourselves. And relationship also take time, taking the presence and time. And I started to say this too, that curiosity, instead of judging ourselves for something we feel like we're not meeting, being curious about, I wonder why, for me, I wonder why I won't take time to spend writing. And that had been a past story too. I was still kind of thinking about that. Why was I in so much resistance to what that looks like for something that I'm craving or knowing that wants to come through me? Why was I going, mm-mm, nope, nope, won't do it. Won't do it. Part of that is still perfectionism. And I see it come through a lot too of this. Well, I don't know what I'm going to say or write. And it used to be like, well, I just don't have anything to say, so I won't spend the time. But if I take 5 minutes right now and just start writing, things will start happening. So sometimes too, it's just about taking that step of whatever the resistance is asking us to uh, maybe be in relationship with. And instead of going like, oh, Evelyn, why can't you do this thing? I'm going, Evelyn, why are you choosing not to do this thing? With the tone, with the curiosity, not making myself wrong, but instead sitting with and beside. And then sometimes too, the conversation is just, I don't know, but I just need to take 5 or 10 minutes and do the thing. And if I'll just do that and see if something comes through, great. And if not, then okay. Um, and so I share more too around the process for myself because I think it's also helpful to know that a lot of times too, I get a lot of feedback about the creativity that I share. People love it, the expression, but that also has taken deliberate practice. It has also meant taking a risk. It has meant sharing with the notion or knowing that sometimes I will receive messages of pushback or I will receive messages of people who don't understand what I've had to say. And also, the other thing that I really felt again at part of this week was also this beautiful thing that has happened every time I take a risk for that deliberate, intentional devotion, where I really do share that when I feel led to share. It is always met, and I always receive messages from people thanking me for doing that thing. And I know I've talked about this before, but I think there is still sometimes that moment of comfort or that choice of fear of staying where we are because, like, at least we know what this looks like. But often I find that when we're on that growth edge, when we are really ready for something different or for us to expand in a different way or grow in a different way, there is that like niggling, there's that thing in the background that goes, there's something asking me to dance right now. And I'm curious too, if even when I say that, if something comes up for you, is there something in your spirit that is asking you to dance or to be in some devotion with? And devotion, I love the word because we, again, that using our life as an altar, I keep doing this across my breast, but almost like we lay our life out as that altar. What is on the altar? What is asking for our engagement? I also found the Find Your Center song, right, was the first song that came through when I started my little roulette. And I have this book by Daniel Laporte, White Hot Truth. And I bought this, I don't know, like whenever it came out, a long time ago. And I never read it all the way through. I've read parts of it, but I felt compelled to pull it out this week. And so I've kind of carried it around, and sometimes I'll flip open if I'm feeling led or drawn to something. And so today, find your center. I felt really drawn to find the center of the book. Like it's quite literal. I'm like, okay, whatever. So there's a little poem she's written here, and I think it also fits quite well with that deliberate devotion, that slowing down, that deciding what we're going to continue holding or releasing. Sometimes my heart is so open. I can't tell if it is a gaping wound or a portal for everything that ever was and ever will be. I've learned to love the beautiful terror of eternity and scenario planning for how shattered I could be if the dark things got tall and if I fell backwards in my forgetting of the light. But you can't fall backwards in space. You can only ever unfurl. More than anything, I've wed the certainty that nothing changes without me. Not coal becoming diamonds, not fertilizing eggs, or migration patterns, or medicine dreams. And what I thought was a net cast to me from a higher God is actually strands of truth and filaments of desire that I've tied together with my own two hands. And in precious encounters, I tie what I know and want to you so we can ride the winds of wonder. And I really feel like, again, this is about the intention, the changing or shifting ideas. What does that look like? I love the line too. If I fell backwards, am I forgetting of the light? This whole chapter is kind of her talking about the fear of like when you're coming into more spiritual enlightenment, that everything's love and light. She's like, and I tried to hold that, but then I had to grapple with there's not everything is love and light, and there's hard things too. And how do I hold the place for both? How do I hold the light and the dark and make them friends? Or make, that's not what she said. I'm spinning that my own language, of course, and just kind of over synthesizing or simplifying what the chapter she goes into. But I guess the soul service, conscious optimism and giving from your fullness. She's talking about the integration of all parts of you and also holding light and dark. What we've been taught also is dark. Earlier, I was talking about death. So much too. You watch how we handle a lot of death here. It is still very like removed from us. And I think in other cultures and indigenous practice, death is not seen often as an end. It's seen as a rebirth of another kind or a transition into something else. And so again, we are always choosing our lens. We are always getting to define our experience. And so I started to say this. If the dark things got tall, and if I fell backwards in my forgetting of the light, but you can't fall backwards in space. You can only ever unfurl. And I like this because usually, too, again, even in some kinds of, we talk about spiritual hierarchy, light and dark, these things being greater or less. And I really feel like all things are teachers, and in different seasons, some things feel like a bigger teacher for us. But even the small teachers are producing things in us. Even noticing that a dog I'm walking is choosing to really be interested in what I think is a weed. What does that mean? I don't know. But it is a curious thing to start noticing those patterns or recognizing those things that might feel random, and letting them also be small teachers or noticing where there are repetitive things coming through. And I like this idea of we're unfurling because that, again, to me, it was not so charged with the hierarchy of pushing us to be one thing or the other, but that we are occurring, that we're allowing, that we're living inside of. And I think that's another message coming through too right now, too, is a lot of you are being really, really hard on yourselves and whatever journey that you're on. And you can hold yourself accountable, but you can also hold yourself in love and recognition that sometimes that procrastination that you're in is also just because you've chosen that you're not ready. And once we let that be okay, sometimes that energy moves and we find, you know what? I actually am ready, whatever that means for you. And finally, so we have the card deck. I didn't pull yet either. So this is going to be, we'll find out together what the card is. Most of the time, too, I don't even read our card. I think I've told you all this before. I don't even read the card I pull. I just open the page and see what happens. And another reason I like doing this or bringing you all into this process is that that is also me actively living and pushing back against the perfectionism of needing a plan, of knowing where we're going, and trusting that we're going to be led through. And sometimes I leave these firesides and go, I really I hope it said something because I feel like I was just in flow and I hope that things came through that. But again, that's kind of a devotion for me of practicing, deliberately practicing to be in trust. And when I do that, when I really trust that we're going to be provided and cared for and watching that unfold, I see evidence of it all the time. And it's this really beautiful gift to be inside. So what I've done here is I've created some stacks and I was going to pull from one, but I feel like our card is this one. Okay, crystals, focus. This is from Earth Magic. So let's get to our page here. Let's see what we've got. 35. Here we see an amethyst crystal. Cave bath bathed in the water from a river, the points of light representing the spiritual force that these beings generate. Amethyst, as well as other types of quartz crystals, have been used for thousands of years in magic and healing, as well as for intensifying psychic capabilities. Since its violet color is the same as the crown chakra, it has often been referred to as a spiritual stone. The nature of quartz crystals, the second most common element in the Earth's crust, is that they help focus the power of our life force or spirit. Where attention goes, power flows, and crystals magnify this power tenfold. Our intention influences where our attention goes. Where we're consciously aware of our intention, it facilitates the focus of that spiritual power and supports the manifestation and material reality of that intention. It is time to bring your complete focus to the subject of your inquiry. Eliminate all distractions and give this your undivided attention, your devotion. Whether this is a project, relationship, or simply a relaxing time spent walking in nature, be fully present to the situation. The sharpening of focus will expand your awareness and allow your inner guidance to penetrate your consciousness, which can then be parlayed into appropriate action. By being focused with crystal clarity, you are in the flow of your life force and, in fact, have become one with it. It is not a hypervigilant or tension-filled state, but one of relaxed attention. Keep your eyes, ears, and heart focused on that which you need to pay attention to, and miracles can be created. To paraphrase a fictional elder, use the force and use it in a life-enhancing ways. What's really cool about this is I feel like it really does encapsulate a lot of what like has been coming through for us today. But I remember too, I brought another book out that I've been carrying around. It's called An Audience of One. Again, the tagline, Reclaiming Creativity for Its Own Sake. And I love this beautiful bright cover on it. But again, I did a flip and I'm like, oh no, we'll see where I land. And I was drawn to this quote from Carl Ove, oh, Knausgaard. I feel like maybe Norwegian name, I'm not sure. But what he writes, in a state of flow, the activity in the frontal lobe is reduced. It is almost shut down, and it is in the frontal lobe the ability for abstract thinking is situated, the planning for the future, and the sense of self. Everything that makes us human, in other words, and that makes perfect sense, you lose yourself and sink into a state of pure being, like an animal belonging to the world, not to yourself. And I think again to that act of deliberate practice of being in that state of devotion, of flow. That's how we get to that flow, right? Because when we're in tune and attuned to what's going on here and what we want to generate, what our life altar is cultivating, calling in, and also pushing out. That's how we get into that flow. That's how we receive that clarity. That's how we have those aligned action steps that come forward for us through that practice of being in deliberate devotion with what is transpiring for us. So I love that this quote was brought forward back to me by the card because I was like, I don't know, we'll see if we use it or not. Um, but it's been a beautiful morning to be here with you in this space. No matter where you find yourself today, just know that you are loved, you are seen, you are so provided for. You can trust the path that you're on, the life you're living inside, continuing to trust your instincts, your divine knowing, and your flow. And all things are going to continue to move you forward. Remember, what's meant for you won't miss you. Okay, I'll see you next week.